And how about like your region and what's like most important to you right now considering travel? Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So if you had a good contract, what does a good contract to you look like in the first place? No, you just want some respect. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely understand. You've traveled, have you just traveled once? Okay. Your experience a majority of the time you find? Yeah. Management. Okay. My goal is to make sure that we get you into paradise, especially when it comes to the setting and to the pay and the location. So I definitely am going to go to bat and make sure I do my vetting as far as what I bring to the table for you. I just don't know if that actually will mean that southeast region. So if that was the case, is that yeah, I was gonna say, is that a deal breaker for you? Because you have a compact, right? Okay, all right. Certainly have some options out there, but we just might have better in one of these these participating compact states. So if that's not a deal breaker, I'm gonna bring you a good amount of options and kind of let you go from there. And just know, I just want to make sure we get kind of those check boxes checked off for you, and that's why I'm presenting whatever I'm presenting to you at that point. Okay. With that being said. Pay range, you said good pay, obviously. What does that look like for you for it to make sense? Okay, so taxable rate $20 an hour. And is that for a specific reason? Because I'm curious if the overall with the tax-free stipends and the taxable were to equate to 20 plus, would that still fit that stipulation or guideline? Okay, all right, perfect. And is that just because, like, on your permanent assignment where you're at now, that's like your base rate, so that's where you're most comfortable at? Okay. So what's the reason for that? I'm just curious. Yeah. Why more taxable dollars is what I mean. More so is what I'm asking. Sure, absolutely. Okay. I think that's a conversation that we can revisit when we look over just so I can explain it more in detail. And I'm not like opposed to that by any means. Obviously, depending on the state and everything like that, it could change. But I think that there's a way to explain it, because even though you might be making more hourly, when you look at your take-home pay, you would be keeping the base rate, that hourly taxable wage, lower, so that way, we're kind of beating the system, quote unquote. But we can revisit that when we look at pay packages, and I can explain it and even show you the difference with what your $20 an hour kind of guideline is versus, say, it was $18, and what that looks like as far as money in your pocket after taxes. Excellente. Okay. And so with that being said, you have that base. So weekly, what's that range? Give me a ballpark on what I should be looking for. No problem at all. With in a week format, like we pay every week, what would you be looking at from a ballpark range as far as what that needs to look like that I should be looking for when I am vetting out these positions? Okay, alrighty, can do attitude. And so that does it for, I guess, giving me a really good understanding as far as what I'm looking for. So I appreciate your insights there. Charting experience, charting softwares, what are you familiar with? Okay, Epic, Matrix, MedStat, yep, okay, perfect. And you're up to date on all your COVID, flu, TB, your BLS, CPR certs? Yes. All right, sweet. And were you responsible for booking your own travel and housing there at your last position, or did the agency help with that? Okay, sweet. That's kind of our whole, we did that at one point, but because we found that clinicians usually preferred it, they're doing it their own way. That's exactly the process with us. That's something that you're comfortable with. All right. Okay. Kind of give it 2 weeks to the current place that you're at, or is that even required, or just kind of give you some breathing room to, yeah, okay, perfect, no problem at all. And then days, nights, 12s versus 8s, what's your schedule preference look like? You're all good, okay, and 12s, got it, excellent. And you said you were open to overtime as well. Okay, great. Okay, sweet. Thanks for walking through all that with me. I've got your info updated now and am ready to get to homework and start checking on what we've got coming up that matches with everything that you're looking for. Did you receive that email from us? I believe it would have came from Danny, looking at all of the things that we're going to need to go ahead and move forward as far as like when we look at the options and get you submitted. Resumes. All right, dope. I'm going to go ahead and send you over just all of that information for you so that way you can begin looking at that and start putting some stuff together. And then I'm going to also be sending you over probably a few text messages with some locations and some, details about the positions, and then we can kind of go from there. All right, thanks for your time, Brittany. I'll talk to you later. Yes, ma'am. Bye. That's how it's done. That's a good call.